Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Alliance's Performance Shop, Mopars.com. Out here on a windy Monday, figured I would try to get some stuff done, and some of the stuff, shockingly, that hasn't been done is orders that go back to Black Friday. So we're going to go ahead and get these things in use, ready to go, and we're going to captivate your attention with this beautiful little thing. This is 18 inches of Koken Badassery. And, it's basically one rail with almost everything you could hope for. Swivel, just you name it, we're covered. Until I was perusing the catalog one fateful night, and I realized there were some things we were missing. Now, if you look at this, you're kind of thinking like, okay, what could you possibly be missing? You've sort of got three styles, of universals here. You've sort of got, traditional, more compact, the double. You do that with 3/8, you do it with half, and then right here, this must be quarter to 3/8, 3/8 to quarter. That looks like it would be 3/8 to half, and then you've even got spinners here. What more could a man want? Well, what if we could do something that sort of ties in those last two items, right? And you're thinking, I kind of have an idea what he might be doing, but what is it exactly? Well, this first one is going to be part number 2756Z-3/8. Price point on this thing is $20.09. I will tell you, this is Black Friday, so we had 30% off on all this stuff, which makes it a really good deal. And this is a sweet little get-up right here. There it is again in hand, 2756Z-3/8, and you're thinking, okay, so Z series, what's going on? It's like some sort of little adapter, reducer, spinner. You're thinking like, oh, okay, so like a compact 3/8 spinner. Like let's look at that versus the 3/8, and you're thinking, okay, yeah, that's cool, So maybe that pairs well with, like a tiny micro stuff, right? But, it is a spinner. Maybe you would want to have the radius here, the OD to clear the ratchet head. Is that going to be accomplished with this? Well, you don't have to worry about the radius of the head. We'll just go ahead, the fixed head quick release here will be the easiest to showcase this stuff. So plug this thing in. Kind of see what I mean, right? My thumb is just right there. Articulation extraordinaire. If I take this compact one here, it's not going to clear. But more importantly, it's not going to go on the ratchet, because this is a spinner, as you can obviously tell. It's 3/8 drive for your socket. This side right here is quarter. That's right, this is essentially taking a quarter drive ratchet to a 3/8 drive, so it's an adapter, but it couples it with a spinner, and it's the ultra compact iteration from the Z series. Very cool, right? So you're thinking, yeah, that's some good stuff here. So we'll probably pair that right in this spot. But if we come in, as you recall, I told you I had two things here I needed to showcase. And this next one is part number 3756Z-1/2 inch. Now, if anyone paid attention there, you're thinking, hey, wasn't this similar to that? 2756, this is 3756, there's a dash half. Well, let's take what we know, right? The Z series dash 3/8. That's going to tell us our output drive size in that case. So would this be output drive size of 1/2 inch with that fraction at the end? And then if we've got a 3 in the front instead of a 2, if we know anything about Koken socket systems, could this possibly be a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter combined with a spinner? Well, if that's what you're thinking it is, you are 100% correct, and that's exactly what we have. So 1/2 inch drive for your socket, 3/8 drive on the input. So we can come in here, we're going to take this, plug it in to our quick release. Super nice articulation there. Now watch this though. I can come in and I can take this ginormous 22 mil, and for reasons unknown, if we wanted to set that up, you could totally do it, and you've got a spinner. Just stupid cool. I'm very, very happy to have found those, and we'll get them added to the rail. Now, sticking with sort of the theme on that side, we got a lot of universals happening, right? And this is something I'd always wanted to try, and I was like, nah, it's too expensive, you know, I don't really know how I'm going to like it, how it's going to pan out or anything like that. Well, 30% off is a good time to find out, and this is something that I don't think DRPD had. Maybe they did have metric only. I don't know. I'd have to go look. But the 30% off is what did it, and it is not these two items. All right. I wish I recently, not recently, but you know, sometime relatively recently, most recents I purchased were protos to go to work. I really wish I had them here to kind of compare to the Kokens, but I do have an SK. This is like new old stock, really good condition, and then an Astro, so kind of like a more, way more affordable Taiwanese iteration. Huge advantage of the SK, aside from the chrome being significantly better, it's got stamping. This has no stamping. This has laser etching, and that's going to come off. And, you're not going to know what size it is. This did come in a foam tray, but I mean, there is... Typically, you know, what you have is you have laser etching on one side, stamping on the other, or oftentimes on swivels, universals, whatever you want to call them, there'd be like a big 19 somewhere. No, not here. The SK, this is a 3/4. I don't have metric iteration, but right there you can kind of see 3/4 USA. Down here, drive end, nothing, but again, it's stamped, and that's going to be there longer than the laser etching. So, with Koken, did you know they make them? They do, and I've got a box right here. In fact, if we just drop this down, boom. One of the reasons I didn't jump right on this, there was like a couple of straggler items. They kind of shipped most of them, but then some of them were month and a half, 2 months behind type of a thing. So this bag right here is going to be metric. Now, you know me, I'm kind of thrifty. So I sit there and I think, why would I get like a complete set when I could just kind of buy what I think I would frequently use? And this is what I came up with. Conveniently written by Koken, we've got the part numbers. So 3445M dash, you guessed it, the size. In this case, what this bag has is what I personally spec'd out for myself. 8, 10, 13, 14, 17, 19, 16, and 18 are comeback items, all right? I encounter them from time to time, and I thought, well, you know, before I fully commit, let's try to feel this out. And this is kind of your starter sizes. So I figured I'd go to town with that. In SAE land, right here, we got kind of a hodgepodge, but 3/8, half, 9/16, and 3/4. You're like, dude, no 7/16? Don't you deal a lot with quarter? It was one of the straggler items. So, where 3445M for metric dash your size, 3445A for, you know, American, SAE, fractional, imperial, dash your size. And since we have the 7/16 as a standalone, let's just go ahead and plop this one out, because there is a surprise. You're thinking, okay, well, what is it? You got Kokens to compare. Well, yeah, but, dun 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 dun, do you see it? Can you tell what I've done? I hope you can, because it's glorious. It's right there, as we'll focus in. These are 12 point, and that is a big deal to me as someone that uses ARP fasteners and runs across 12 point fasteners and turns square stock and likes the ability to double my chances of catching a 6 point fastener. This is nice. This is something I didn't have here. This is a good way to justify it, 6 versus 12, right? Sort of an exploratory type of a thing. The way they've kind of finished these out, pinned, obviously, they're all going to be similar. This seems a little bit more streamlined. We should do a good comparison with a 3/4 and a 19, so that's what we'll do. But since this one's here, you can see the 3445A, and then you can see made in Japan. We've got the Koken branding. Pretty large size stamping here, 7/16. What I love that Koken did, if we can get the glove to work its magic there, we also have it stamped here. So we have 2 spots of stamping. Not laser etching, stamping. Stamping is what I would prefer over a laser. So, right here, we'll come in. And I'll tell you right now, you're thinking like, oh, Mr. SAE left out some sizes. I did. I treated them kind of like the 16 and an 18. I sort of wanted to get a feel for these. haven't been disappointed by Koken before, but you never know, right? You kind of have to tread cautiously, right? So I'm thinking like, well, I'll wait for a big sale again and maybe pick up the others, and maybe I've done that on a big sale, right? So essentially 3/8, 7/16, half, 9/16, and 3/4 on the SAE side. So we'll set all this out to the side. This is the one that I'm going to need 3/4 to compare there. That is our Astro. We're going to set this one off to the side, and in metric land, we have all this goodness, which we will just dump out, I should say. And a good reason for me wanting to do this, I've got 8-inch trays. Not that I had to modify, like, they did it. They're making 8-inch trays, and these are going to fit perfectly on the 8-inch trays. So if we just take a wild guess that this would be our 19, there you can kind of get a feel for what she looks like. And we will zoom in and confirm everything. I want to make sure it's, you know, straight across. So there's our 19. There is the Koken branding. There's our 19 up top and made in Japan, and your part number. So we will cast all these over to one side, and what I want to do is start here since it's in my hand. 19 mil versus 19 mil. This is Astro versus Koken. This is the way I buy Astro stuff, very cheap socket because we stacked discounts on sales, and this is a pretty reasonable socket. We've not talked prices. I did tell you, I'm like, you know, I've kind of held off doing this because the prices are sort of scary, right? They're expensive. By Koken standards especially. To put this in perspective, since we're dealing with the biggest one, why? For max visibility for you. Let's take a look at the 19 mil. MSRP stock right now, $30.97. This is a $31 socket. Now, when you get 30% off, that makes it significantly lower. Right? So if we do the math on that, 10% of that, where was my figure? 19, it was $31.90, wasn't it? Oh, $30.97, my bad. So $30.97, so we would come in, we take $3.09 off, but we're going to do that 3 times. So we'd be taking off $9.27. So we would have been paying $21.70 with the discount. Still spendy, don't get me wrong. But I think it's going to be a worthwhile addition because, after all, we've built the Koken cart. The thing is stockpiled chock full of Koken. How could we not continue to advance the cause here? For me personally, swivels, universals, whatever you want to call them, I use them the most as chromies in 3/8 drive. Not quarter, not half, 3/8. If I'm using a swivel on 1/2-inch drive, it's usually impact rated. I'd love to eventually build something out, but that's kind of not necessary at this point in time. And if I did, my impact would be 6 point, the chromies would be 12, mainly in part, again, all the reasons we just mentioned, plus significantly thinner sidewall versus a 6-point impact. If we like these from Koken and we catch another 30+% off sale, I might peruse the quarter drive offerings. Off the top of my head, I'm not even sure what they have or if they have SAE. This is something you run into with like German tool companies and sometimes Japanese stuff. You get like really cool stuff in Metricville, and then there's not always the SAE equivalent, right? Z series is a great example. I would love nothing more than to have equilateral rails in the box of our Z series, super compact shallows, right? Super tight tolerances, everything. I can do it in metric. They don't make it in SAE. I do constantly suggest that they do that, and when I place orders, I'll throw it in there. I'm like, hey, you need to tell Koken Japan that we really need these in, SAE sizes. So if you place an order, I encourage you to do the same thing. Maybe you've got an idea. Maybe you want like a ridiculously long quarter drive flex set. Tell them. You never know. If enough people say the same thing, they're not stupid, and they're going to be like, huh, I wonder if we could sell that. And maybe they do some exploratory stuff on their own. Okay, hey. Let's pull the trigger, get this in production. So always take your chances there. You never know what may come to be. But going back to what matters here, King, keep in mind 6 point versus 12 point, yes, but if you typically have a 6-point versus a 12-point socket, even in chrome, the 12s have the advantage of being slightly thinner. Now, going against an impact, significantly thinner. But the Astro is actually fairly thin. This is light. This has a little bit more meat to it, right? That's kind of something I sort of gauge. Like the icon sockets, they're chromies. They've never felt quite right to me. Something I can't quantify. I just, you know, years of using stuff and seeing it grenade and stuff that lasts. This feels like proto, okay? And I've had very good luck with proto. I've had good luck snap-on swivels. One of the few things we have at work that are snap-on still to this day. They're granted all the sidewalls are fractured. Really shouldn't be used much at all unless you're turning it by hand. But phenomenally thin. I don't know what date range is on them. I don't know if they've changed them, but they're pretty freaking good. It's basically one of the only sockets in certain situations. You got a bolt hole circle here, but you've got like you know, casting, and this would not fit. Okay, the 12-point, it's just slightly thinner and you can kind of nest it on, so works well. Your overall height, let's see here, Koken usually prints that for me, and up at the top it's looking like this would clock in at 56.5 millimeters, so it is standing a little bit taller than the Astro. And it's interesting, a lot of the times, this was the same thing with the SK. You'll note that I've got socket to socket there, and the Koken is just ever so slightly longer. It's also significantly beefier there, in my opinion, at that radius. That is where stress fractures tend to form. Again, referencing snap-ons there, but you'll see right here kind of where the socket body comes down, and then you've got that radius to this point. Keep your eye on that black pin, and now look at this one. It's just beefier, right? This does take a different shape. This sort of is almost like a triangular bracket, right? It looks like a fab part. This is a little more slim and trim. What this is going to do, in theory, we should have better articulation, but where they put the pin on the Astro might make a difference there. The Koken is much, much tighter. I've probably used this a few times. Not enough to just like make this a floppy, you know, train wreck or anything, but it's older, it's been in service. This is quite tight. Obviously, the more you use these, especially if you put them on even, say, a battery-powered ratchet, velocity, hinges, joints, stuff starts to wear. It gets floppy. You might tape it, kind of keep it, sort of just hold its position a little bit better, right? Right now, it is fantastic. You'll note that is pinned, okay? If we take a look at the Astro, it's kind of interesting. And at first glance, you're thinking like, oh yeah, it's just like the Koken. That's cool. Look at that. That is 100% a hex screw. Okay, so if I go in and find the right size tiny L key, we could tighten that down, take it apart, what have you. So kind of interesting there. Maybe we'll do that as a bonus content. This one, no dice. We're not going to be able to do that. How these hold up over time, I don't know. I also don't believe I've ever seen a tool haul where somebody had these and then brought them in or was reviewing them. So if you use it, I'm sure there's a lot of people that use them, but you're not making videos, right? So this is your time to shine. In the comments section, say, hey, I was so impressed with Koken when I discovered them 7 or 8 years ago. I pulled the trigger on some universals or swivels or whatever you want to call them, and by gosh, I love them. They've been fantastic. Similarly, you could say, man, they were great, but after about 2 years, they started to get really loose. Or, hey, you know, I love them, but my most frequently used sizes I blow the pins out of. Whatever your experience, good or bad, leave it down below. Help people out. Again, that's, to me, a significant chunk of money to throw down on a socket. And if people are just as good off with cheaper option, tell them. If you've tried everything and you're like, man, that thing is legit, say it, you know, tell the people what you know. Similarly, all right, if you're like, man, you know, the guy's right, you know, the snap-on's the way to go, or you might say, man, for the money, Proto can't be beat. Some of you might have Harbor Freight stuff that you love. Whatever it is, tell people. The drive end, I do want to get that comparison for you. I would say very, very similar. The Koken is just a little bit taller. That's more pronounced. Well, no. That might be dadgum near dead on, now that I position it correct. I would say very, very close. The Koken, looking down the barrel, very well executed, just as you would expect. Astro is not terrible looking. I mean, like I said, I have not used this good enough to tell you, like, hey, yeah, steal of the century or junk. No, we're not to that point with those yet. So, coming over here, I've got this Koken and I've got this SK. Again, we'll switch it around. So SK 6.3/4, Koken 12.3/4. Again, fairly thin wall on the SK. These have beautiful chrome. That's kind of what SK was known for. You can see the tolerances there, almost identical. Even 6 to 12. In fact, the SK might be slightly thinner. We'd have to come, measure everything out. We're not going to go to that length here unless you want me to. There's your sidewall. Looking down, you'll note, in addition to the black pins, Koken used a black center body, whereas SK kind of has a full chromed piece there. You'll also note it's radiused quite nicely. Shows up super good with a mirror finish on it there, right? This one's radiused quite nice as well. Overall length on the socket. Is the SK just a smidge taller? I would say like what, a 1/16, 1/8 of an inch type of a thing. Coming in over here, drive end to drive end, gonna be just about the same. SK might be a little shorter. If we just go overall length here, we'll set them down. Stupidly close. Again, these are almost too close to call. SK and Astro versus the Koken. The SK has great movement. It's a little looser. Again, it's been around longer. This is quite tight, which again is a good thing. You still get don't get me wrong, you get great articulation. It's just not loose. It's not floppy. That becomes a pet peeve and an extreme annoyance here not too long in the future. If we come in right here, we'll take the Koken. Here it is, 3/4. Again, you can get crazy weird angles on these things, but there comes a point in time where you're not going to be able to actually like physically turn the bolt, so it's sort of a moot point. Yeah, you can do some stuff. I had a pretty funky angle today at work I was quite pleased with. I was doing it by hand to get some seat time with a max 90. I actually broke my first bolt with it today. It was just a little like a grade 2 lag screw, nothing fancy, but I was trying to loosen it actually. It was just bound so bad from the shipment shifting, it just whack, snapped her off. But yeah. Anyway, I mean, that's right now out of the box. That is phenomenal, the hold that it's got. And again, just picture your range of motion, pair this with a wobble fix. Maybe a locking extension so you get down in there, and again a flex head, always a fantastic pairing. Similarly, you might have like a compact situation, right? Maybe we're underneath the forklift and we've got to tighten up a leaking hose clamp, right? Come in with your stubby, get a little angle on it. I've got free form over here. I can access the fastener, I can get it serviced quicker. Coming in, we'll go metric. We'll grab this guy right here, the 19. Get some leverage, right? This is probably my most used Koken 3/8 at this point since I got it. But you get the idea. It pairs quite nicely. And again, all the time you see me like, man, that kicked back out. You're thinking like, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, once you've had like things that pair well, this isn't like even the highest, clearance and tolerance stuff from Koken. It just goes on and it doesn't kick. It's perfect, and that's what you expect from everyone, right? The pin right here that you see on the ratchet, if you've ever had issues with those, well, be leery, because that's the same pin here. If you haven't, and you've put your ratchets through a lot of abuse, well, you can probably feel pretty good and trust that as a robust connection. So, but yeah, I'm excited to get these things in use. I'm excited to build out the rail. I'm very excited to kind of, I hope those fit. I think they will. This was 3/8 initially. I just kind of customize it as needed. So we'll probably pair the 1/4, pair the 3/8 to half, go to town that way. But yeah, that's what we did. We've got Koken swivels And, very, very excited about it. Again, if you've used these, how do you like them? And more importantly, how do they compare to what you were using previously? If you were using junk, like no-name stuff, and these are just a godsend, tell people. If your junk that you don't even remember if you bought it at AutoZone or Napa back 25 years ago has held up beautifully, tell people. If it's like, man, these are on par with insert brand X at your preference here. Whatever your opinion, you can't be wrong, especially if you got first-hand feedback on it. Let people know how you're liking these, how they hold up. Similarly, what do you think on universals? Do you go 3/8 as a default? Do you do quarter as a default? For me, again, Chromie Land, it would be 3/8 down to quarter. Half inch would be like the last piece, if you will. And the impact wise, it would be half, then 3/8, then quarter, in that order, definitively. But there's just certain times. I mean, I come in all the time, like stuff I was doing today. I'm coming through, you know, horizontal crate, and I've got to get to brackets that are holding a motor down. And so I run a really, really, really long extension, and I go in. And you have to have a swivel sometimes, either just for clearance with an obstacle, like say a junction box, you know, or the actual body of the motor itself, or again, you know, if like freight damage has happened and something's rolled back and the steel brackets have just folded themselves essentially, right? You run into weird stuff. And it is always nice to have something that can make your life a little easier, because the worst thing you can possibly do is have to throw down cardboard, get down on your hands and knees, and sit there with a wrench, because you don't get like a full 180 degree. No. Especially with the freight damage, like you might be able to get a good swing, maybe 90 degrees, we'll say, but since something is collapsed or down or about to fall, you have to revert back, and maybe you're getting 15-20 degrees with the open end of a wrench because you can't get the box end over the fastener because it'll get stuck when you're raising it out. Good, very good to have options. Again, I try personally to keep universals sort of like special limited use, or else I'll use them all the time. Like my Capris, the two that I bought half and 9/16, use them all the time because I have to. They're stupid floppy. And then that gets old because you're coming in, you know, keep in mind, you got like 12, 18-inch extension here coming down, and I want it to be like this. And then as I'm going down, you know, if you brush up against anything, boom, you know, it's just dropping around. And so on a 6-point especially, you've got one shot, and if you miss that, then you've got to come in and you turn. Luckily, you know, your extension lets you turn it, and you try to catch the fastener, and it just turns into a nightmare. So firm, tight, you know, not loose, not goosey, not floppy. Just well executed. And the longer it stays that way, the better. Some people, maybe you want them to just flop all over the place. I don't. I do not. You know, if you've got access to it, you kind of don't necessarily need the universal socket in the first place. But to each their own. My personal preference is tight. So with that said, your thoughts and opinions always appreciated here. Again, especially first-hand feedback. I can't believe I let these sit here that long. That's kind of sad, but I'm excited to put them on rails, get them in the cart. Got to make some space for them, and most importantly, get them into service. So with that said, LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. If you do that, you ring the bell, you jump your charger across the creek. YouTube just might notify you. We got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, thanks so much for watching, and I hope I catch you back here for more from the shop. Alright, bonus content. I was laying this out, trying to get the thumbnail, and they did something that is so underrated, and it's exactly how things should be. You'll note, all of these are oriented with the pin-up, right, or tried to, what the mat will allow me to do. Stamping for 3/4, here, in line with the pin. Stamping for half, stamping for 3/8, stamping for 19, in line with the pin. Stamping for 8 mil, in line with the pin. It's beautiful, it's indexed, it doesn't get much better than that, and I'm so thankful to see that somebody actually cared enough to do that, not just haphazardly. stamp and assemble things. So kudos to Koken on that front. But yeah, got some more cool stuff coming, and we're gonna get to that now.